Hey everyone, Jessica Cabesi here. In today's video tutorial, I'm actually going to be transforming this image into the style of one of my favorite photographers, Rosie Hardy. And I actually have a video where I try to shoot like her, and this is one of the pictures that came out of that photo shoot. So if you want to check out how I took this shot and the styling behind the scenes of it, I'm going to have a link to that video. This is going to be a continuation of that video, kind of like a part 2. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into editing this photo into her style. Rosie does have a very unique style. I mean, I've been a fan of her work for forever, so I'm going to try to see what I can come up with. It's not easy to do. I've seen, the work that she puts into her photos is absolutely incredible. I mean, she's kind of like a magician. So I'm going to try my best and see what I can come up with. Let's first start out by doing something that Rosie does a lot of, and she actually is so good at this, and I'm really not that great at it, but she's really good at photo manipulating things into the photo, whether that be, she'll put like a bear in the picture, she'll put moths in the picture, she'll add in like parts of the dress to make the dress bigger. She's just really good at that. So I'm gonna try to see what I can come up with on that front. And I have this picture here, and I like how the dress is coming out here. So I want to add it into here. And again, that's something that Rosie does a lot. So let's do it. Let's try to do it. So I'm going to first select this image, the one that I want to add into this picture. This is the picture that I really like. But I want to add, again, that dress form here where it's fluttered out. So I'm going to paste in this picture. And again, this is something that she does so well, and I'm going to try to do it. So first things first, I'm lowering the opacity just to get an idea of where I can put this dress. Okay, so let's zoom in here and see. I kind of want it to be lined up over here. It's not going to be perfect, and I'm going to have to move it around a little. So I think that looks okay. I basically want to just mask this part in. Okay, so you want to add the mask to this layer, and then you want to invert the layer, showing the original picture. And then using a white foreground color, and again, 100% opacity, you want to just color parts of the dress in that you can see. Oh, and you have to higher the opacity back to the original layer. Don't forget that. Okay, so this is not going to be perfect. I'm going to get a form going here, and then when I'm going to go in and detail mask it later. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. I don't really need to blend it in over here. I think that's okay. If you see an area that you don't particularly like, you can just blend it in. Especially, this is a dress that has a lot of flips and folds, so I want to make sure that it looks seamless. But this bottom part right here is bothering me a little bit, so I'm actually going to mask in some of the original grass on a low hardness brush. I'm just going to mask in some of the grass so it fits in a little bit better. Not all of it. There, that looks a little bit better. Okay, I'm liking how that looks. Okay, now that I have the dress the way I want it, I'm going to now focus on the background of the picture, more specifically changing the color of the greenery in the back. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, then Hue Saturation. And I'm going to focus on the yellows and the greens tab. And first we're going to start on yellows. And I'm going to lower the opacity to begin to about -80. And as you can see, it's already looking kind of nice. But I want to change the color of the leaves to a more blue tone, so we're going to higher this up. Let's see what looks kind of nice. I think 135 looks pretty good. And we're going to switch on over to the greens tab. And I'm going to lower the saturation to about -14. And let's do kind of in the same ballpark as the yellows tab, which is like what, 138? I like, okay, this looks good. Now, we do want to mask her out because she's looking kind of sick. Like, she looks like she's a part of the X-Men crew, which is not what we want. So what I'm going to do is, you could do one of two things, okay? You could do the lasso tool, any of these, to select her, or you can do the brush tool on a quick mask. Now, I usually use the brush tool because I like to color. You know, it takes me back to my kindergarten, preschool days. But I'm going to try to make this easier on myself by using the lasso tool, and we'll see how far I get with this before I just switch to the brush tool. So I'm going to go ahead and mask her out. Okay, and I did it. I messed up just a little bit on some parts, but we're going to fix that. Don't worry. So what I want to do now is actually mask this out in the hue saturation layer. So what you can do, or what I would do, is just delete this current mask and just drag it over there. And then simply create a new mask. So just press this little mask, add layer mask button. And then if this happens, which sometimes it does happen, you don't invert the mask correctly, simply press Command I and it'll invert the mask. So that's something that happens frequently. When you make a selection, sometimes it will select the outer part. So don't freak out. That's something that you can do. So if you get an area like this where you maybe missed it when you were masking, don't worry about it. What you can do is grab the brush tool over here. Make sure you get a default round brush, hardness, mine's at 85, my opacity is at 91, and my foreground color is white. And what you can do is simply color in the areas that you missed. And if you want to add, you can simply just toggle to the black foreground color. So white is to delete. Well, really depending on what your mask is inverted to. But yeah, use the black and white. Just practice. It's confusing at first, but when you get it, it's pretty simple. Now that I've finished with that, what I want to do is hold Command and select the selection that I just created of the model. And then I'm going to press Command-Shift-I to make sure I get the right selection. So we're just inverting that selection. And then I'm going to go to Select, Save Selection. And what we're doing is simply saving this entire selection so that I don't have to go back and fiddle around with the masks and select it and not select it. I can just load it from this panel. So I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to press Command D to deselect it, because I'm going to use it again in the future. So it's just easier that way. Okay, so we want to only select the dress for these next couple of steps. So what I'm going to do is first get that layer, the hue saturation layer. I'm going to load that. And then you want to go to Select and then Load Selection. And it's going to ask you what channel you want. And I already saved it. It's over here. Just press Model and then press OK. And as you can see, it loads the selection. Isn't that wonderful? This is going to save us a lot of time. So what we want to do now is press Q, okay? And this is going to make a little quick mask. And all I want to do is select her skin tone and her hair out of this. I just want the dress to be available, to be here. So using a black foreground color, I'm just going to literally color her out of this selection. So we're deleting her. Just think of it as like an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, like you're being erased from this life, from your life, basically. And again, you can use the lasso tool, you can use the brush tool, doesn't matter. I just like to color. It's kind of therapeutic for me. At this moment in my life, really, coloring is therapeutic. I've reached that stage in my life. Okay, so now that I've selected her out of this photo and the selection, I'm going to go ahead and press Q once more. And now you can see that only the dress is selected. And for good measure, I'm going to go again back to select, save selection, and then just type in dress. So if I make any mistakes, I always have this selection. And I'm going to just delete this current mask off the hue saturation and then mask out what I just created. So only the dress is now going to be affected for whatever we do. We're going to go ahead and decrease the saturation to -100 on the master tab, and then we're going to go on over to the reds, and I'm going to decrease the saturation yet again, and then we're going to bump up the lightness to 48. And let me see, I don't really think this makes much of a difference, but we'll just do, I wrote down -2, so why not? I'll entertain it. Okay. And then we're going to go on over to the yellows tab, and again, lower that saturation, and I'm going to bump the lightness up. So we're just setting a good base for the color that I'm going to add. And I find that it really is helpful if you use separate layers. So that is why we are going to do another curves layer. And instead of doing the mask, what I'm going to do is by holding the Alt Option key, if you go right in the middle of these two layers, you can create a little clipping mask so that this curves layer will only affect this selection. So for instance, as you can see, only is affecting the dress. So we are going to go on the RGB layer and just make a little bit of adjustment here. And now we're going to take another curves layer, so layer, new adjustment layer, and then curves layer, and make yet again one more. Oh, and I have to make the clipping mask. So holding Alt, and we are just doing that same thing, just clicking when you see the little arrow so that we make sure that it only affects the dress. I find that doing it on separate layers really makes it just look a little bit more solid. So each layer is helpful in its own way. I'm just going to higher this up a little, the whites. I could be here all day working on this one curves layer. I think that looks pretty good. But then again, I don't, because I keep changing it. Okay, I think this is okay. So now we're going to add a little bit of vignette to the background. And one easy way you can do it is just grabbing, yet again, another curves layer. Or you can create a gradient, a radial gradient. whichever you like, and you just decrease it a little right in the middle. And taking a big fluffy brush, you can just make sure the hardness is at 0 and maybe just lower the opacity just a little, and you can mask her out a little, just so she stands out a little more within the background. See the difference? So now what we're going to do is add a smoke texture into this photo, and if you simply Google it, there will be so many that you can choose from, and I'm choosing this one. And I know it seems a little small, but I actually don't mind if they're pixelated, because when I transform them, they actually look a little cooler. So don't worry if it's not like the best quality, because you're going to enlarge them and they're going to be, they're going to fit into the photo no matter what. They don't have to be like the greatest quality. So what you want to do is position it how you want it, and then go from normal to screen. And there you go. Look at, she's in the fog. And by pressing Command T, you can move the texture around and see where you like it. And I'm just simply duplicating it and moving it around the photo. So Command J, I'm just duplicating and moving it around. And really, is there a technique to this? Absolutely not. I wish that there was, because I wouldn't have to have redone this tutorial like 15 times. So yeah, it's really just moving it around and seeing if it looks good, I guess. And you can always mask her out if you don't, if you know the smoke is covering, the fake smoke is, the Google smoke is covering her. So there was actually one texture, where was it? This one. I was like, this looks like someone's been smoking for 100 years and they coughed, and then this is what came out. Looks like a really bad case of, yeah, smoking. Let's see what this looks like. This one looks pretty intense. And it is lovely. Okay. What does it look like? It looks like that guy from the Power Rangers, the Gordon or something. Zordon, or I don't even know what this guy's name is. He's the guy in the talking face. in the it's like a it's like a glass water tunnel. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know how he got there. They should make like a movie on that, because now I'm curious. Like, is he just a floating talking head? How does that work? Is there a story? I think his name is Zordon, right? Who's about to who's about to pause the video and go check right now? Because after this video, I'm gonna check. Because Gordon kind of reminds me of Gordo from Lizzie McGuire, and I know that's not it. Okay. Okay, I think that is pretty nice. Okay, and then, you know, one last thing, you can add a new fill layer and then a gradient if you really want. And I had one in specific. It was like baby blue to transparent. And you can just position it how you want it. And just simply set it to screen. It gives it like a nice look. Make sure it's subtle though. Well, actually, you could do whatever you want, but I mean, for this picture, I don't want it to be too much. And then one thing that I like to do to kind of solidify everything, like, you know, make sure everything works together, is make a curves layer and add a little bit of tone to it. Such as this. Wow, it's actually looking decent. You guys, I've redone this tutorial like 5 times. And it's not an easy tutorial to recreate. This is a little bit more advanced. than my usual tutorials because there's, there's selecting stuff and photo manipulation and adding in textures and stuff like that. So keep in mind, when you're watching this, and I hope I wasn't too confusing at times, but yeah, this is a little bit more advanced. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And we're switching over to the blue section on the curves layer, and I want to add just a little bit of yellow. But in my defense, I've been doing photo manipulation and graphic designing for so long now that it's easy for me to do it on my own, like just practice, but to actually be doing a live tutorial and not confuse anyone, it's a little difficult. But I like it. I really enjoy it though. But I have to make sure that I don't step ahead and just do stuff without telling you guys what I'm doing. That's the challenge, really. I want a little bit more yellow. I think that looks pretty good. You can always duplicate the layer if you want it a little bit more intense. I'm going to try to add one more layer of tones on the curves layer and see what I can come up with. Ooh, that looks kind of nice. That looks like the same thing I just did. This is all experimentation. Really, nothing is planned now. I'm going off script, you guys, for this tutorial. Okay. Trying to get something decent looking. Oh, God, no. Nope, I don't like that red. It makes her look like it's like a red, like bloody fog or something like that. And no one wants that. One thing I do usually is I put it to luminosity, and it kind of makes it look cool sometimes. Only sometimes, though. Okay, so I think this is looking pretty good. Although I do want a little bit more yellow. Am I being a crazy person? I want a little bit more yellow. Maybe I can just shut this whole tutorial down with one last gradient map, maybe? Let's see what we can do here. Here we go. Now we're talking. Okay, this is it, guys. I like this. Okay, that's cool. So I just added a gradient map, and I think that is looking pretty nice. And if you don't want it to be too strong, just take a curves layer, set it to luminosity. It'll kind of balance it out a little. There we go. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. So let me show you guys a quick before and after. I went ahead and I put everything in a group that I named Group 1. So original. Let's see before and after. Wow. Even I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's so much work that I just did. For instance, if you think that the dress might have been too much, I was so extra with the dress, the nice part about all these clipping masks and stuff is you can easily tweak it by just selecting, that layer and going in and tweaking it. So you don't like anything, just change it. That's how life should be. You don't like something, change it. If possible, though. But don't take my advice. I don't want to get messages saying that I ruined someone's life because they took my advice, basically. So that is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you guys like it. Let me know what you guys would like to see in the future. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching.